relational ministry met with like meeting some basic needs of people, which is
Absolutely.
really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I guess a day in CHAZ as well also looked like seeing a lot of people pepper sprayed.
Hi, everybody. We have an exciting episode today. So I have my friend Garrett with me today. Garrett, tell us a little bit about what you do.
Yeah, for sure. So I am the drummer in Final Greetings. I've been a part of it for about 2 years now, along with my wife, Alyssa. And so we've been traveling together pretty much every minute of our marriage, which has been a unique opportunity because we get to spend like pretty much 24 hours a day with each other. So we go around the world essentially and just spread the gospel through our music. But not only that, we serve in whatever way possible. And whether that be youth camps or remodeling or whatever it may be, yeah, that's our focus, is just to go into these communities, use music as a method, but actually love and serve the people within it. And yeah, just show Christ.
That is so awesome. So you went somewhere very interesting a few weeks ago, CHAZ, the Capitol Hill Autonomous Zone, or I think it's also called the Capitol Hill Organized Protest as well now. How did you end up there? Just give us that whole story.
Yeah. So I took a nap one day and I woke up to Andy Ziesmer calling me. Andy Ziesmer is the president of the Jesus Mission. And so I answer and I say, "What's up?" I got my really deep voice going on, you know, really tired. And he just starts to tell me about this opportunity that a church called him about. It's Calvary the Hill in Seattle. And so, yeah, the pastor of that church, which has known Andy for a while, called Andy to see if the Jesus Mission had anybody that he could send out to help with their worship sessions they were doing every night. Right on the, like, it was in the zone, but it was like on the very edge. And so they've been holding these sessions and prayer sessions and worship sessions. And with that, they give out snacks and coffee and like clean restrooms. And all the different stuff, and they just need help with that. And so Andy felt to call me first, which was pretty cool. So I told him, like, dude, that's the last place I thought I was gonna go. So it's definitely gonna have to be a God thing. Can't be me, can't be my decision. And so I told him I'd let him know when I get that confirmation, and I'd give him a call back or shoot him a text or whatever. So I got up, and like we always usually do after we get up after a nap, you got to use the restroom, right? So I go use the restroom, and all of a sudden God just like came over me like crazy. Because I had started praying a minute, like I got off the phone with Andy and just was really just trying to say, like, God, like, this has got to be you. So I go use the restroom, and he just comes over me and is like, I have like chills. I get super emotional, like out of nowhere. And I just hear him say, "You've been so frustrated with everything that's been going on in this country, feeling like you can't do anything about it, feeling like you can't speak about it or speak to it at all. Well, here's your opportunity to do something about it." And in that moment, I knew without a shadow of a doubt that it was somewhere I needed to go. Don't know why, didn't know what it was going to do there or who I was going to talk to or whatever, but I knew that I needed to go. So yeah, and then I went and talked to Alyssa about that, kind of gave her that same story and just told her what happened. And she's like, "Well, you know, if you feel God is calling you, then I'm going to be behind you 100%. And I was still pretty like nervous about it. And I was like, "Yeah, I don't know." And she's like, "Well, what don't you know? You just got called from God, now go." That's why I love my wife, because she is very straightforward. And so I was like, "Yeah, you're right." And so I had texted Andy saying, "I'm in. I'm going to head out tomorrow morning." So.
Wow, that is crazy. So you felt called by God. Did you feel going into it like you had any particular goals, like specific goals that you felt called to while you were there?
You know, I had no idea what to expect, especially with it being like being told to me and then like leaving in less than 24 hours kind of a thing. So I really had no expectations. But as I kind of go through my ministry and how I do it, I like to go into different cultures, especially when we travel abroad and whatnot. I like to just not seem like a tourist, not seem like I'm out of place, and kind of assimilate with the culture and just blend in and get to know people. So I knew from my past doing that in different countries that this would be kind of the same situation, because I guess essentially CHAZ is a different country, was a different country. So yeah, I figured that would be the method I would take, and God could work through that however he seemed fit.
Dang. All right. So did you have a chance to tell people where you were going, and what were people's reactions? And I'm really curious to hear the difference between what were the reactions of the Christians in your life, and what about the like non-believers in your life? Like, what was their reaction to you telling them you're gonna go to
absolutely. So Alyssa was the first one I talked to. Like I said, she fully was on board with me, which is great because as a married couple in Christ, you need to be unified in your ministry. So that was another really, really strong factor for when I did talk to, let's say, my in-laws that I was staying with at the time. They're like, well, are you guys unified on this? And we were. And so they were completely fine with it. Now they were nervous because obviously the news was very much painting a picture of stay away if you are in your right mind. So yeah, that was, but they were supportive. They were just telling me be safe, obviously. And then I called my parents later that evening, and I got a, are you serious? Like in a like excited thing from my mom. And then my dad was like, oh no. And I'm like, Dad, it's fine. Like, I'm gonna be fine. Like, it's a good thing. This is what God's called me to be, or called me to do. And so he's gonna protect me while I'm there. And if anything happens, then that is also his will. So I have to act, I have to go no matter what may happen, because you're not always guaranteed safety in ministry, as history will tell you. But you can't let that be something that holds you back, especially when it comes to a place like this. So.
Right.
And okay, so the second part of your question with the non-believers, I told a couple of my buddies I was going down there, just in like talking or whatever. And it was after I'd actually gotten there, because I didn't necessarily call them, because I wanted to call my Christian peers and my like my mom's prayer group and stuff like that, so I could just have like an army behind me praying. And when I say army, my mom literally raised an army. I had over 60 people praying for me, day in and day out, sending me like messages, just like saying like, we're so like happy that God's called you to do this kind of thing. We're praying a hedge of protection and all that good stuff. So I had all the prayer coverage I think I needed going down there. But with my non-Christian friends, they pretty much just said, you can be strapped. That's about all they said. So,
yeah, the reactions when I told people like I had a friend there, or I had a friend that had gone there, it was lots of this kind of look like, and they were like very skeptical then of me that I would have a friend that would go there. I'm like, what do you think it's like? Like, what kind of I guess presuppositions do you have in your brain about that, associating it with that place? But next question is, would you just walk us through a day in CHAZ?
Yeah. So every day in CHAZ looked differently, just because at the beginning I was actually pretty nervous. It was a new environment, new just area, and of course the news. If you listen to that solely, you are going to go in there with the expectations of bad things happening to you. So it was very different from my time at the beginning to the end. And I do value my time towards the end more, just because I feel like I was more comfortable to live in my mission that I was there for. And so a day in CHAZ towards the end of the week looked like me waking up pretty early and making a good amount of coffee for the people I've met, and going out there and just sitting by a campfire that was in a trash can, fueled by wood that we found in construction sites. They found. I sent them on missions, I guess. Anyways, so yeah, we would hang out around the campfire and just talk for hours and hours and hours. And that was pretty much all we did all day long. And then I would eat, and then, yeah, of course you got to eat. I'm just trying to remember back. Anyways, so yeah, and then we would go around 5 o'clock would be our worship sessions at the church that I was serving at. And so throughout the day, I'd be inviting these people I was building a relationship with. And so they would come over and we would have coffee together again. And we had like snacks and wet wipes, which were important because, you know, everybody's camping out there for weeks on end, not necessarily showering. And we had clean restrooms, which is also something that they didn't have. And then we had our worship session, which was when I was there, me playing guitar for about an hour and singing just about God and whatnot. And then we had prayer, and yeah, just pretty much being there for the community. And then after that, packed up everything like guitar wise and just kind of put it all away, and then hung outside of the church for another hour with people that would walk by and just kind of, you know, serving them however we could. And then after everything shut down and all the church folk went home, I went up back into the CHAZ and stayed there usually till about 4 a.m. Just hanging out with people and talking with Christ, talking to them, and eventually talking about Christ with them. But for me, I don't necessarily like to open with Christ because a lot of people in there are very jaded towards all that, because either they've been burnt by religion or they've been burnt by these preachers that come in there screaming hellfire and damnation, which has truth to it, but the way they do it is very hateful, and it's absolutely not the way Christ would have done it at all. I believe Christ would have walked into that area, sat down, and broke bread with these people. And so I tried my best to make that the model of what I did. And so, yeah, that's a day in a life that concludes it.
Yeah, so very relational ministry met with like meeting some basic needs of people, which is
absolutely
really cool.
Yeah. Oh, I guess a day in CHAZ as well also looked like seeing a lot of people pepper sprayed and moving away from running crowds. That was also weird things. Like, yeah, just a lot of craziness happening. Yeah, like the latter half of my stay there, I was more centralized in the back half of it, hanging out with those people. But throughout the week, it was very much me trying to explore and eventually like find somebody that's kind of just looking like they want to have a conversation, you know, or not like, I don't know, having them just be like by themselves or something like that, so I can just spark up something. It's easier to spark up a conversation with an individual instead of a group sometimes.
Yeah.
And so, but in doing that, just seeing all the lawlessness that was there, because it was truly a lawless state. There was no services of any kind, and you pretty much were in the Wild West. And if you weren't careful, it was very dangerous. But if you have some type of common sense, it was okay. They pretty much were peaceful people. All they wanted to do was just be there, stand for their cause that they believe in. So they're not going to attack you out of nowhere. They're not going to do whatever. But if you're in there, you know, saying you're a demon, you're going to burn in hell kind of thing, and screaming that in their face, then yeah, you're going to light up some attitudes. You're going to make people really angry. And also you're going to dig up their past of like, you know, their burnt religion that they probably grew up in that was forced down their throat or something like that. And that's how you get jumped on by like 20 guys, which I witnessed. And yeah, it was pretty intense. So
can you tell us about that?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So on one day in particular, it was a Saturday, these group of preachers came in. They've been there many times. The main preacher guy, I forget his name, but he's on the internet everywhere, like like being videoed, because he does this all the time everywhere he goes. And
Right.
so he's got like the sign, the whatever, and it says that you're, you know, turn or burn kind of a thing, danger, blah, blah, the typical sandwich boards kind of stuff. And like, it's not like he didn't have truth to what he was saying. Like, because if you don't turn from your sin, you are truly, like, you're going to die from your sin. And, but that doesn't mean you're damned to hell. It just means that you, like, you're soaking in your sin. So obviously, like, that's sin equals death. But he pretty much just made it sound like if you were in the zone, you were already lost. You were unredeemable and you were gone.
Kind
Even though he said
Christians wouldn't, assuming there was no Christians there.
Yeah, assuming there was no Christians there, absolutely. And so here I am walking around, just kind of, you know, watching this happen. And meanwhile, he's screaming all these things while having his backpack play like the softest, lightest worship music. And it was so cringy. Anyways, yeah. And so I'm watching this happening and everything, and it's getting more intense. People are getting more angry, more frustrated. But he keeps going harder and harder. And he has about a group of 4 or 5 guys with him that are doing the same thing, but just not as intensely. And it pretty much dissolved into like their signs getting ripped away from them, the PVC pipes they're using to hold the signs together getting thrown at them, getting sucker punched in the face. And then eventually this one guy, I couldn't really tell his role in it. At times it looked like he was trying to talk the main preacher guy down from like what he was doing, which would have been awesome because he needed to be talked down from it. But out of nowhere, somebody like just decked that guy, the guy that was trying to talk the main preacher guy out of it. And then a whole bunch of people joined in. And before I knew it, there was about 20 guys on top of this guy, choking him out, kicking him like crazy. And then this older white guy, he's probably in his 40s, 45, 50, walked up, and like the guy that was getting beat up was on the ground. There's people laying on the ground with him, like choking him out. And the older white guy walked up and kicked one of the protesters as hard as he could. Well, all that did was turn all that anger and violence towards him. And I'm standing like probably 15 feet away from this that is happening. And so now everybody's going towards that older white guy. And all of a sudden he pulls out a gun right in front of me and is screaming at these people, get back, blah, blah. And so I just move off to the side. I knew he didn't have beef with me, obviously, because I wasn't attacking him or anything like that. So just calmly moved to the side, keeping a cool head and just praying over the situation, because honestly, it was really tense. There was about 100 or so people involved with this thing that was going on. And so I just started praying over the situation, like, God, you know, you have this. Make him put it away, God. Like, make him put the gun away, God. And he actually put it away. And then they were able to kind of push him out of the zone and his friend that he linked up, and then they just walked away. And so by the grace of God, nobody got shot. Nobody actually got seriously injured. I'm sure that one guy that got jumped has a lot of bruises, but he was able to walk out on his own. And after the guy pulled the gun, nobody cared about that guy. They were just jumping anymore. Like, he literally just blended back into the crowd. So yeah, like that was the most extreme day, but that wasn't unlike any other day. There was lots of fights, lots of anger. I witnessed a lot of just tenseness, and everybody is ready to pop off on somebody. And it was all internal conflict that was happening. So.
Yeah, you mentioned that you saw a lot of people getting pepper sprayed. Was that people pepper spraying each other, or was that
within the zone? Yeah, it was pretty much people that were irate versus people that were irate that had pepper spray. And they would just and get them, and then pepper spray in aerosol form gets about everybody around you. So yeah, thank God I didn't get the plume that was around some of the people that got pepper sprayed. But yeah, it was one guy in particular. I was told his name was Rick, but then I found out that his name is not Rick, but we don't know his name. So I'm just going to call him Rick, but I don't think it's his name. So, because he'll come up later in a story that I'll share.
Yeah, for sure. So the next question I have is kind of a deep one. You can take this however way you want to take it. What's like the one thing that you hope people watching this video take away from your story? What's the one thing you want them to know?
Yeah, absolutely. So no matter what news you watch right now, it vilifies everybody, right, left, center. Like everything is just made to create divisiveness and hate. And honestly, if you are a Christian, you can't have that in your heart. And I'm guilty of it though. Like people in CHAZ, the CHAZ in general, before I went there, I called them dumb. I said they were like stupid for even trying this, and like what the heck were they even thinking? They're just, perpetuating a dumb blah blah, or I don't know, like, my personal opinions. And then God called me there, and I didn't know what to think about that. And my whole week being there, God kind of just opened my eyes to realize that those are people too. They're brothers and sisters in Christ, but they might not be believers, but they're still children of God, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so how can we hate them? How can we shame them for what they believe in? Because we believe in something, right? We believe in wholeheartedly our relationship with Christ and who he is and what Christ did for us. And we'll fight to the death for that, and we have. So I understand their pain and anguish over certain things that are happening in their lives. Nor I don't know if I agree. Like that's not what this whole thing is about. But what I'm saying is I understand their opinion, and I'm happy they have an opinion, I guess. Like I'm happy that they're allowed to have something that is against the status quo, because that's true freedom, when you're allowed to believe what you want to believe, and whatever. Now on how you act on that is different, but yeah, so just learning to love people, or remembering actually is the bigger part, remembering to love people no matter what is going on, no matter what side of the aisle they're on politically or movement wise, because these people are some of the most broken people I've seen. And I'm actually happy that CHAZ happened, because when I go out into the world on mission with Final Greetings, our whole goal is to equip the found and find the lost. And both are super important, right? We want to equip the Christians that we're there for, and the missionaries that we're serving, and the churches and youth pastors and all the different stuff that we are backing. But we're all in that equipping the found, but we're all doing that to find the lost. And CHAZ is and there were some believers, I did meet some believers, but the majority of CHAZ was a congregation of unbelievers. So it was the perfect storm to go in there and be able to share Christ with everyone, love everyone, be there for everyone, and not hate or judge them when they shoot up heroin in front of you, not hate or judge them for their opinions. Just let them speak and let them hear them, because that's all they want to do. They just want to be heard. And if you don't let them speak, why are they going to let you speak to them about Christ? And through the relationships, and it takes time. I'm not talking a 15-minute conversation. I'm talking for 72 hours straight, just hanging out with people. Obviously I had limited time when I was there, and I didn't meet everybody that I wanted to meet, first and foremost. So it was more towards the latter half of the week. But yeah, putting in the time to try to make a difference, no matter if that means you're not going to get enough sleep that night or something like that, and not going home when you think you should go home, or I don't know, when it's after dark kind of a thing, you know, and it wouldn't be safe. Because most of the nights I did go home like before it was dark, because I was told you don't want to be out here by yourself at night. And just one night I felt emboldened. I don't know if I'll just say it was Christ, because he gives me all the courage and energy that I need. So like I just felt emboldened to stay out after dark and walk around, and just try to find a group of people or something, or a picture to take, or just, you know, do whatever to see what opportunities open up. And from that willingness, I was able to meet the group of people that I was able to hang out with for the rest of the time I was there. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is incredible. And I just wanted to thank you for being so obedient to the Holy Spirit working in your heart. This is an incredible story, and I think it's a message that America really needs right now, and Western Christianity really needs right now. So
yeah. I agree.
I appreciate you sharing your story. Before we finish up, I asked my Instagram and Twitter followers if they wanted to ask you any questions, and so I'm gonna pick some of my favorites, and we'll go through those if you're
awesome. Sounds good. I'm excited.
Cool. So let's do this one from our friend Hayden McAllister.
Oh, Hayden.
Oh, Hayden. We love you, Hayden. What were your expectations going into it?
Ultimately to lead people to Christ, but I had no idea if that would even happen or what that would look like. I guess my expectations, if I had to think back and put any on it, would be just to go there and model a Christ life, and just build a relationship.
Yeah. Cavino388 asks, will you be making it out alive? Or did you make it out alive?
No, I didn't. Sorry. This is my spirit animal talking to you right now.
We're glad you made it out alive. Did you at one ever, I guess I'll piggyback off on that one. Did you ever feel like you wouldn't make it out alive?
No, I was never in threat of my life. I was never in fear of my life. There was a couple situations that I definitely had to take maneuvers and I guess evasive maneuvers to remove myself from the situation that was either just happening around me or that it was happening to me, like getting followed by a group of guys, or walking by a group and then them all like turning around and start just like right behind me. That happened a couple times. And so the first time I pretty much just like maneuvered away. But after that, there was one time in particular, I walked by a group of 4 guys, and they were conversating and having, you know, whatever, fun, laughing. And they were obviously citizens of CHAZ. And so I walked by them, and they all stopped, and they all like just start following me. And so I knew this was happening, and I walked for about 20 steps, and I could feel the hairs on the back of my neck kind of go up. And so I just turned around, and I stared at them. I was like, and they just walked away. So
wow.
that was awesome. I'm glad that nothing came of that, but
yeah.
You can't always run away from things. And I guess that's actually a really good life advice. But sometimes you just got to turn around and stare at it and face it head on.
Yeah.
And I mean, we have the power of God on our side, so he's going to make you look like a raging bear, right? So maybe they felt like they shouldn't mess with me or something, even though I'm not that buff or anything.
So you didn't have any firearms on you, or you didn't have any, did you have any weapons on you or anything? Just curious.
I don't know what you're talking about.
But you didn't like threaten violence at them, and you just
Oh, absolutely not. No, definitely not. Never had to do that. Never had to protect myself in a physical form.
Yeah. So you literally just turned around and looked at them.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
In that instance, yeah.
Dang.
Yep. And there was one other time that I was somewhat in fear for my life, and this was a little bit more intense. It's kind of funny that I didn't think about it first off. So Rick, we all remember Rick I was talking about earlier, right? He's the guy that goes around pepper spraying everybody, and he's really hot-tempered. And I really couldn't get a grasp on if he was against what was going on there or if he was there. I don't know. Anyways, Rick carried 2 pistols on him.
Right.
He had one right here and then one on his side, on the same side. And I can only imagine he had them there so he could draw them both at the same time and think he was cool. Honestly, I don't know if he knew how to use them, but that's neither here nor there. So I'm over at my campsite that I'm not camping myself, but my friends were. And so I'm at their campsite and we have our fire going. And Rick walks up. Rick's usually by himself, and he usually just kind of screams at people, gets in fights with people, and then ends up pepper spraying them. And I'm seeing it like 4 or 5 times throughout the days I was there. And so we're at this campfire, and Rick walks up with about 4 guys with him, and just starts saying that the community citizens don't want you guys here anymore. And I said, okay. He's like, yeah, so you're gonna have to, just move all this stuff out of here. And he was pointing at like a tent, the picnic table that we had, like the fire and another tent. And I'm like, okay, sounds good. We'll get it packed up and blah, blah, blah. Just trying to make sure nothing weird happens. And he's like, yeah, so I'm just going to have to ask you guys to pack up everything. And he kind of walks behind us. We're all sitting in like camper chairs just around this campfire. And we have a picnic table behind us. And so he walks behind us and says, yeah, I just need you guys to, pack up everything, and then flips the table like so hard. Like if I had to imagine what Jesus looked like in the temple flipping the changers' tables, like that was probably it. So thanks for the great depiction of what Christ did in the Bible, Rick. Really appreciate that. But anyways, he did that, and I'm like, what the heck? And I'm just sitting in the chair still, kind of like, okay. Of course, everything on the table is strewn everywhere now. It's just all destroyed. And he's still calmly saying, yeah, so I'm just need you guys to get everything out of here, blah, blah. And then he goes over to a tent, completely rips the tent, like stressing himself and like visibly just like grunting, or not visibly, but audibly grunting, like doing it. And then comes over to our fire, still saying it very calmly, like, just gonna need you guys to pack up everything, grabs our big like water jug of like 5 gallons of water, just completely throws it on the fire like as hard as he can. And he's like, yeah, and next time I'm gonna come back with force.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, okay, sounds good. So Rick had 5 guys with him that were obviously with him, and like that was, his posse. And so I just looked at the 4 guys that was with me. I was like, hey guys, let's walk off to the side. Let's just kind of get out of here, and like just kind of go take shelter or whatever, because you never know what he's gonna do. If you say one thing wrong to Rick, he's just gonna light you up with pepper spray. And honestly, I don't want to mess with a guy that has 2 pistols on him that is that irate. So, right. Nor do I want to mess with a guy in general. So we kind of walk away, and ironically, we all walk to the church, because that's where I knew where to go that was safe. And so I was able to bring all my friends over to the church again and kind of just hang out. And so, yeah, that was probably the craziest time of me, like, okay, this could actually turn south pretty quickly.
Yeah.
So,
sounds like, dang.
Yeah.
All right, let's do another question. It's probably a little more less pepper spray-y. Or it could be. I don't know. The answer could be pepper spray to this one too.
Maybe. Usually is in CHAZ.
Stuart 4God07 asks, what is it like witnessing there compared to other places?
It was kind of easier. And I think it's because the people I was talking to and building a relationship with, I knew were broken, and I knew they were kind of just internally screaming out inside. And so with such a strong call from God, like just so recently, I felt like, and empowered, you know?
Mhm.
And so I was able to speak about Christ a lot more quickly, but finding the right time and the right words to say while doing that. And so being able to just talk with these people and like get to know them, get to hear their story was like my first and foremost. And actually, I'll just share a story about how that works, and I'll make it quick so that it doesn't take too much time because I know we're getting long. But so yeah, I'm at the first night that I met these guys. I was walking around 11 o'clock and found them and I just pretty much said, "Hey, that's a nice campfire," and they're like, "Yeah, come on over." So I'm like, "Sweet, that's the end." So I come over and I hang out, and just they had some stencils of like Black Lives Matter, like fists and all that different stuff. They're like, "Dude, you gotta make one of these." I'm like, "All right, cool, let's spray it." And so I sprayed one on like a piece of paper, doing art and stuff with them. And I am an artist, so I guess I can't deny an opportunity to do that. And so through that, I just meet like 4 guys, and they're all pretty crazy dudes. Most of them were visibly on drugs and very much that mentality. And so I'm sitting there, time had elapsed like 2, 3 hours, 4 hours. I think it's around 2 in the morning right now. And so I'm just hanging out, and I had thought about going home like an hour earlier, but I just felt like the need to just not and just be out there and be there. And so I went and like put my valuables I had on me, like my camera and stuff, back in my room at the church I was staying, and then went back out to the zone to hang out with those guys. And so I'm listening to this one guy kind of just talk about his life and all the hardship he's gone through, just how many bones he's broken. That was crazy, man. I swear, that guy, I don't even know how he's standing. But I listened to him for like, I don't know, 45 minutes, talk about all of it. And during that time, another guy had walked up that was new, and he was about my age. And so we're both just sitting down like next to each other, listening to this guy tell his story. And then the dude gets done and he starts chopping wood. And so I look over at the guy that was new at my age, that just sat down. I say, "So what's your story?" And he just starts laughing. He's like, "Well, it's not that interesting," like compared to the one we just listened to. I was like, "Well, try me, like, let's hear it." And so he just starts off and talking about all of his just the things that are going on in his life, and just the downs that he's had. And he's been homeless for a couple of years now, and just parental issues, and yeah, just a lot of stuff. And it was hard to hear because he is a young guy, and he's just had a lot of wrong things hit him, and a lot of wrong decisions as well, admittedly, from him, that have just led him down this path. And towards the end of his, I guess, story, testimony, whatever you want to call it, he's like jokingly, flippantly just says, "I don't know, I guess I just need to get baptized or something." And I'm like, "Well, are you serious about that?" And he's like, "Well, I mean, I don't even know really what that means, but I don't know." And so I just let the conversation pause for a second. I was like, "Well, I would love to like kind of explain some stuff to you if you want to hear it about what that means." And he pauses and thinks, and it's cool because like the pause and think, like I can actually tell that the wheels are turning, and so he just says, "You know what? Yeah, I'd actually would kind of like to hear what that is." And so I just started off with the beginning of the gospel, and just got to share that all with him. And then through that, after that, like sharing about like what baptism is, and like how that's an outward expression, and but it comes after the inward expression,
Right.
of accepting Christ. And so I did that for probably like 30 or 15 minutes or whatever. And all the while shaking in my boots, like literally shaking like to death. Like I was in a 0-degree room. Like it's crazy because I don't know, the weight of the responsibility in that moment of like, man, I don't want to say the wrong thing. I don't want to make come off as like this Christianese weird person, you know, like I want to be able to like say relatable words and just like make it sound as real as it is to me, because it is real. And but it's not like this, oh, where art thou kind of thing. It's a very much personal relationship. It's not the religion thing that has been so twisted and distorted. So at the end of the gospel and the baptismal explanation, I just asked him, I was like, so would that be something you'd be interested in, accepting Christ into your life? And he paused and he thought, and he's like, yeah, that's something I want to do. And so I got to walk him through the Lord's Prayer, which I've heard a million times, but seem to forget every word in that moment. So, but I know, like, obviously it's not about the words, it's about the expression and everything. And I got most of them right. So, yeah, so he got to accept Christ into his life then. And then for the next 2 hours, I just answered questions that he had, because man, he had a lot. And that's okay, because I told him, I was like, dude, if you have questions, ask me. Like, please ask me. And if I don't know the answer, I will find it out for you. So he just did. He asked me a lot of questions, a lot of hard questions. I love baby Christians because they always ask the good questions, you know? And so I was walking him through like different sin kind of stuff, and like repentance, and how Christ died. Obviously, I was in the original gospel, but because he was addicted to drugs, and pretty hard drugs, and all this different stuff that was going on in his life. So I told him, I'm like, dude, you've accepted Christ into your life, and I just want to let you know that doesn't fix everything, because now it's hit the road running kind of a thing. It's work time, because you want to change your life. You accepted Christ into your life for a reason, because you believe that he can change you, and he can, but you got to be willing for that change. And so now it's time to start walking away from the sin, and time to start like just living a life that you want to live, that you feel is better, because he had a good head on his shoulders. He knew that what he was doing was wrong. And so it just made sense to him in that moment. But I told him, I was like, I just want to be real with you, dude. You just became a Christian, and you might be on like a emotional high right now or something like that. But I pretty much guarantee you within, 24 to 48 hours, you're probably going to go use again. And he kind of like just slunk down. He's like, yeah, I probably am. And I'm like, and that's okay, because if you do that, if you sin repeatedly over again, which we all do, no matter what our sin is, we all have something that's in our life. God's going to love you no matter what. He's going to be there for you no matter what. And sure enough, not even 15 minutes later, some of his buddies came over and they offered, and he accepted. And then I was just still hanging out with them. Like I didn't let that like push me away. And so I'm just kind of hanging out by their tent, like watching them shoot up this stuff. And I can never do drugs like that, because man, I can never stick needles on my arm. I'm just a needle freak. Anyways, so yeah. So as he's doing that, he kind of looks at me and he's like, I guess you're right. I'm like, yeah, see, I told you. But he laughed about it, and he understood, and I knew he understood, which was good. But I also had a really good pastor that I was connected with that church, that I knew I could connect him with, that would help along his path, which I ended up connecting him with on that Sunday. So yeah, I know that's a long story. Sorry. Everything that happens, I think it can't be. Yeah, it can't be.
That's the reason we're doing this.
Short. Exactly.
That is crazy, and I love that you made such a point to talk about sanctification. Like, there's a reason I wanted to include sanctification in the title of my YouTube channel, is because you, like, accepting Christ, I think there's a idea in Christianity about as soon as you invite Jesus into your heart, now you are perfect. And you don't magically become perfect when you follow Christ.
No.
One of the first evangelists ever was the woman at the well, who was sleeping with some guy she wasn't married to, who
Yep.
had three husbands, and she was a Samaritan woman. And it's like,
Yeah.
sanctification is a journey that Jesus takes you on, and he's gonna be there through the ups and downs. And yeah, I think having a
Absolutely.
realistic expectation about how much your life is going to change, and it becomes easier to say no to that sin.
Yeah.
But I mean,
Yeah. And that was the encouragement I gave him. I was like, it's going to happen, and you may get frustrated. You may feel like a piece of crap, like we all do sometimes.
yeah.
Some more than others. Sometimes I feel like a real big piece of crap. But anyways, and I told him, I was like, you're going to have your ups and downs, but at some point throughout this fight, you walking away from heroin or whatever it was is just going to stick. And it's just going to be like, no, you're going to be able to say no to it.
Yeah.
And so I pray from all the time that moment happens sooner than later. But yeah, I hope that he emails me. That's the only form of communication I have with him.
Yeah.
So I gave him my email. He doesn't have a phone, so I'm hoping that I just get a random email one day. But I have connected him with that pastor, so I should hit that pastor up and see how he's doing.
That would be amazing. Let's do, I've got a couple heavy ones that I'm saving for the end.
Okay.
Let's do a fun one real quick, which is, what did you eat while you were there?
Oh, man, I'll tell you what, there's this hot dog stand in the middle of CHAZ. It was there before, and it's there after. It's Seattle's best hot dogs. And I tell you what, like, I never thought I would like hot dogs so much. I love cream cheese, and they put cream cheese on it. So that might have been like the selling factor, but everything about it was amazing. So I ate like 4 or 5 of those while I was there, definitely. But the church provided like all like lunch meats and breakfast foods and all that good stuff. So I definitely ate that, and then drank my home-made kombucha I brought with me.
Nice. So. That's actually a pretty good diet. Like the CHAZ cuisine sounds pretty good.
Exactly.
Alrighty. Ooh, here's a good one. This person whose username is Simon Searching said two questions. One is, I wonder in what ways it will change how he will mission in the future. So the first one is, how will it change the way you will do mission in the future? And 2, what bothered you the most?
Yeah, so it will change me from this time, change my mission in the future. Yeah, I know I just said that whole question in a jumbled mess, so that was stupid. But anyways, it will probably make me want to focus on building good relationships. And now that I see the importance, now that I see the impact and the strength of that, probably I'm just going to push towards that even more, and really try to stay in contact with people that I minister to if I can. But also it taught me a lot about timing, which, like, when to bring gospel up, when to bring Jesus up. Because a lot of people, especially in CHAZ, they don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear anything about Christ, especially if it's like the first thing out of your mouth. They write you off and you're done. And I don't say make them feel important like it's, you're faking it. Really take genuine interest in them, understand who they are and what they like to do. And and from there, you can take that genuineness and build upon it. And so that's how it's going to change me. So, and the second question was?
What bothered you the most?
What bothered me the most was, now this is not racist at all, but all the white people walking through snubbing their noses. Literally just, you can watch the disgust on them. And when he saw me in the chop, I looked like I was supposed to be there. Like, I was hanging out around bonfires, helping them break wood apart, chop wood up for the fire, like that was, I was just hanging out with these people. And I wasn't a part of the protest, and I obviously didn't damage anything and didn't do anything like illegal, maybe burning in public property. But anyways, yeah. So like when you saw me there, I fit in really well. And that was my goal. I wanted to.
Right.
And so I guess it succeeded when all these people that would walk by our campsite, which was kind of like right on a walkway bend, and they would just look at us like, oh, you disgusting, vile people. And I don't think that's a white issue. I just think that's a heart issue, you know? And it definitely, that's what pushes me so hard to like say, know who you're looking at before you judge them, because it's not your job to judge. It's not your job to even think like that at all. And also, what do you have in your life that if was out on display, people will look at you for? Because we're not clean in any way. And just because some people are maybe putting their sin on the outside for the world to see, that doesn't give you any excuse to write them off, kind of thing. So especially if a group of Christians walk through, I don't know, I never talked to these people that walked by because they didn't want to take the time of the day to talk to me to figure out that I'm a Christian there ministering to people. No, they would never want to know, because they just think I'm a part of the problem. So
Rachel Enns wants to know, did you find people receptive to Jesus? I know we heard about one guy, but was he the lone story, or were there others?
Yeah, for sure. So it was another guy, one of my good friends that I got to know there. He actually was a Christian, but kind of falling away from it. And it was really cool to get to know him over the time, because he had definitely stepped into a path of like drug use and not pursuing Christ actively in the relationship and stuff like that. So in being there and just joining their group, that was a part of that group that I was with towards the end of the week, with the guy that got saved, I was able to encourage him, and me and him were there actually primarily the whole time. And all these other people will walk in and out. So I got to know him probably the best. And we just got to talk about Christ a lot, talk about ministry, talk about like good and bad ways to do it, especially after those street preachers came in and kind of ruined everything. Yeah. And so later on, like it was Saturday evening, I was leaving that Sunday, that next day. So we're walking to the church to like put his guitar up, because it was raining really, really bad on Saturday. Go figure, in Seattle. Anyways, so we're walking, and we had some deep conversations at this point, and we had spent like every minute of 24 hours together in the last 24 hours together. And I felt like I had known him for years at that point, which was really cool. And so we're walking, and all of a sudden, we weren't saying anything. We were just kind of walking, and then all of a sudden he comes out of nowhere and he's like, I'm like really so glad I met you, man. You're one of the coolest people I know, and you've really just kind of rejuvenated my like want to get back into Christ, and like convicted me to become who I know I need to be. And talk about wanting to hold tears back. Holy crap. Like that hit me hard, because just talking with this guy, I didn't feel that impact on his life. I hoped obviously that I would have some type of impact, but I didn't like expect that much of a change. And when he said that, man, I'm like, God, thank you so much for, using my words to impact this man's life. And so.
Wow. That is so amazing. And that probably goes into my last question. Neil Fix wants to know, are you still in touch with anybody that you met there?
Yeah. So there's three people that I got their contact information, and that was the one guy that I saved, the one I just spoke about with saying how I changed his life, kind of thing. And then there was another guy, I can say Edward. He is from Africa, so he was a really cool guy. And so I ended up getting his Facebook information, and we're staying in contact with each other as well. And cool part about Edward I don't know if he'll ever watch this interview, but if he does, hi, Edward. I asked him on Sunday, like, hey man, you want to go to church? And he was Muslim. He is Muslim. And so I just kind of jokingly said it just to see if it would stick. And he's like, oh, no. I'm like, okay, sounds good. You know, it was like 15 minutes till church. And I had gone to first service, so I just planned on hanging out with them for the second, like for pretty much the rest of the day until I left. And like 5 minutes, not even till church started, I asked him again, I'm like, sure you don't want to go to church, man? And he's like, no. Look at me, I'm not in church clothes. I'm like, well, neither am I. So you don't have to wear church clothes to go to church, man. I don't even know what church clothes are because I've been wearing t-shirts and shorts at church for a long time. And so it's 1 minute past 11, and he's like, okay, come on, let's go. And I'm like, go where? What are you talking about? He's like, to church, man, let's go to church. Come on, let's go. And I'm like, all right, come on, let's go. I was gonna ask him questions. I was like, we're gonna do it. And so we walk over to the church, and it's like a 5-6 minute walk, so there's plenty of time to think about it and like change your mind. And he didn't, and he's getting all trimmed and proper, like tucking his shirt in and everything. And so we get into church, and he doesn't like to wear masks at all. And so with everything going on, we needed to have him wear a mask when we were inside the building. But we sat in the back, and he just didn't want to wear a mask. And so I just went to the pastor. I'm like, hey, this guy doesn't want to wear a mask. If you make him wear a mask, he's going to leave. Is the gospel more important right now? Because I believe it is.
Yeah.
And so we just kind of, agreed to just let him sit in the back and just listen. So we were there for about 10 minutes. And I had been like halfway through worship or whatever. And he's looking like troubled in his seat, like kind of like going back and forth and just like turmoil kind of thing. And so he gets up and he's like, all right, man, that's enough. Let's go. I'm like, okay. And so I can see now he's visibly like troubled in some way, like something's changed in his demeanor. And so we're walking through like the foyer area of the church, and I say like, hey man, you good? Like, why did you want to leave so quick? You okay? He's like, yeah, man, that's enough. I got enough. That's fine. I was like, what do you mean you got enough? Like, can you explain that? And he's like, no, I got enough. The Lord spoke to me. I'm fine. I'm like, oh, the Lord spoke to you? Like, that's awesome, dude. Can you just share with me like what that was? And he's like, no, I just got enough. The Lord spoke to me, and I understand. And I mean, I would normally be like, okay, he's just saying that just because he wants to get out of church and not like, actually sit through a whole entire service or whatever. But to see, I've been hanging out with this guy for 2 days now, and to see his whole entire like personality, demeanor change after that incident or whatever, I actually like really believe that God did say something to him or touch him in some way. And I pray to God, that seed sticks, that was a completely unexpected thing. That was totally, God working and me being annoying, saying, hey, you want to go to church? So, yeah. But yeah.
That's amazing. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Wow. I did not know that we were going to get that level of stories. I had a feeling we might, but
yeah, absolutely.
Wow. And I'm sure there's even more.
Yep.
But real quick, I just wanted to make sure that before we sign off, how do people support you, like find your music, find your mission stuff?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So supporting, exactly. So supporting wise, if you want to just like see what we're about and you even get in contact with us, you can go to ajewsmission.org/the Larsen family, or go to ajewsmission.org, and then you can go through there and find us in the missionary section. And through there, you can either support us in like a message or financially or whatever. If you want to find our music, we're on every platform. Just search Final Greetings. And that is Spotify, Pandora, whatever, iTunes. And yeah, we just came out with a new song called By My Side. It's doing great so far. We have another one coming out soon. We're super stoked about it as well. And if you want to find me on like Instagram or whatever, it's Larsen the G, all one word, Larsen the G. And so you can do that, or on Facebook. But yeah, it's Garrett Larsen. So
Awesome. Thank you so
yeah,
much, Garrett.
absolutely.
To everybody watching this, be praying for Garrett and his wife Alyssa as they go out into the mission. Them leaving CHAZ, or Garrett leaving CHAZ, does not mean that they're done doing missions work. They are full-time missionaries. So be in prayer for them. This is what they do all the time. Also, be in prayer for the people in CHAZ, the people that Garrett ran into, that God would work in their lives, and that he would bring up those conversations and use those conversations that happened to continue to stir in their heart. Garrett, thank you so much for being on my little YouTube channel. I appreciate that so much. And
yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, so go follow Garrett. Listen to some final greetings. Act like Jesus, you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye.